The crystalline gate hummed with deadly energy as Queen Elena stood motionless on the command platform, her pale hands gripping the rail until her knuckles turned white. Below her, the massive portal flickered between dimensions, casting eerie shadows across the assembled fleet of alien warships. General Kithora's forearms gestured dismissively at the human delegation. Your species lacks the neural capacity to comprehend gate technology. Kithora's translator rendered his clicking speech into cold, mechanical words. The hegemony has protected these passages for millennia. Humans are too primitive to assist in their operation. Elena's jaw tightened. The gate crisis had already claimed 3 systems. Without human intervention, billions would die when the dimensional barriers collapsed completely. She turned to Captain Marcus Chen, her chief engineer, who stood rigid beside her in his worn jumpsuit. "Show them," she whispered. Chen's weathered face remained expressionless as he approached the control console. The hegemony technicians stepped aside with obvious contempt, their scaled faces twisted in amusement. The general's mandibles clicked in what Elena recognized as laughter. "Your queen wastes our time," Kithara announced to the assembled fleet commanders. Watch as her primitive attempts at... The hum stopped. Complete silence filled the command deck as every alien eye fixed on Chen's steady hands. He moved across the crystalline interface like a pianist, each touch precise and deliberate. The gate's chaotic energy patterns began to stabilize, the violet-purple flashes shifting to steady blue. Elena watched the general's expression change from amusement to confusion to something approaching fear. The other hegemony officers pressed closer to their displays, mandibles clicking frantically as data streamed across their screens. "Impossible," Kithara breathed. "The harmonic frequencies are stabilizing." Chen finished without looking up. Sweat beaded on his forehead, despite the frigid air. "Your people tried to force the gate into compliance. Humans understand that some things must be coaxed, not commanded." The massive portal's chaotic spinning slowed. Through its transparent surface, Elena could see the distant stars of the Kepler system, no longer twisted by dimensional distortion. The reading showed stable passage for the first time in weeks. Silence stretched across the command deck until one of the younger hegemony officers dared to speak. "General, the quantum resonance patterns suggest I can read the displays," Kithara snapped, but his voice lacked its earlier conviction. He turned to Elena with obvious reluctance. "Your engineer appears to possess adequate technical skills." Elena stepped forward, her boots clicking against the metal deck. "Captain Chen graduated from MIT before your people made first contact. He designed the dimensional shields protecting your home worlds. He built the quantum engines that power half your fleet." Her voice remained calm, but her words carried the weight of absolute authority. "He is not adequate. He is exceptional." The general's forearms crossed defensively. "One successful calibration does not." The gate shattered, not an explosion or collapse, but something far more precise. Elena watched in fascination as the crystalline matrix dissolved into billions of perfect fragments, each one rotating slowly in place. The portal itself remained functional, its energy field holding steady, but every physical component hung suspended in mathematical precision. "Chen," Elena whispered. "Ma'am," he replied without turning. His hands moved across controls that no longer existed, manipulating the floating fragments through pure understanding of their quantum properties. Gate repair requires complete reconstruction. The hegemony tried to patch a damaged foundation. Humans prefer to rebuild from scratch. The fragments began to dance. Elena had never seen anything like it. Billions of crystalline pieces moving in perfect synchronization, rebuilding themselves according to patterns that somehow made more sense than the original design. The portal's energy output increased steadily, its blue glow brightening to white. General Kithara stepped closer to the reconstruction, his mandibles moving silently. "The structural modifications, how did you know that the resonance cascade would..." "Captain Chen studied your gate technology for 15 years, Elena interrupted. "While your engineers followed ancient protocols, he imagined improvements. While they feared change, he embraced innovation." She moved to stand beside Chen, watching the fragments settle into their final positions. "This is what humans do, General. We don't just maintain what exists, we make it better." The rebuilt gate hummed with twice its previous power output, the dimensional barriers now stable enough to last centuries instead of decades. Through its shimmering surface, Elena could see the Kepler colonies clearly, their cities intact and their populations safe. Kithara's translator remained silent for long moments before rendering his words. Her Majesty's engineer has exceeded our projections. Her Majesty's engineer has just saved your civilization, Elena corrected. She turned to face the general directly, her green eyes reflecting the gate's brilliant glow. The question now, General Kithara, is whether the hegemony is wise enough to learn from humans, or proud enough to continue failing without us. The command deck fell silent except for the gate's steady hum. Elena waited, knowing that the next words spoken would determine whether two species worked together toward the stars, or remained forever divided by doubt and prejudice. Chen stepped back from the completed gate, his hands finally still. Your Majesty, he said quietly, the passage is ready. Elena nodded, her gaze never leaving the general's face. Around them, the reconstructed portal sang with perfect harmony, a testament to human ingenuity and the power of seeing beyond the limitations others accepted as unchangeable truth. The silence stretched on. The standoff continued for exactly 37 minutes. Elena knew because she counted each second while General Kithara studied the impossible reconstruction floating before him. Every hegemony officer on the command deck stared at the rebuilt gate, their scanning devices working frantically to understand modifications that shouldn't exist. The quantum matrices are integrated into the crystalline structure itself, whispered Chief Technician Valdris, her 6 eyes wide with disbelief. This eliminates cascade failures completely. No maintenance required for approximately 800 years, Chen supplied helpfully, wiping grease from his hands with a worn cloth. Give or take a century depending on dimensional traffic. Elena watched the general's mandibles click shut with audible force. Around them, the modified gate hummed with serene confidence, its white glow illuminating faces that struggled to comprehend what they'd witnessed. The portal's surface showed crystal-clear images of 3 different star systems, each accessible through simple thought commands. Your Majesty. Admiral Zephy's approached cautiously, her scaled hands clasped behind her back. Perhaps we could discuss the technical specifications. No, Kithara's voice cut through the air like a blade. The human demonstration was impressive. But the hegemony does not require outside assistance to maintain our own infrastructure. Elena felt her patience fracture. Below them, evacuation ships waited at 3 different gates, their holds packed with refugees from systems where dimensional barriers had already begun failing. Each hour of delay meant thousands more deaths. Captain Chen, she said quietly, show the general what's happening at the Proxima Gate. Chen's fingers danced across the air, manipulating holographic displays that materialized around the destroyed fragments. The main screen flickered, then displayed a live feed from the Proxima system. Elena heard several officers gasp as the image resolved. The gate there wasn't humming. It wasn't even intact. Massive chunks of crystalline matrix floated dead in space, their surfaces blackened by dimensional fire. Through the gaps, reality itself seemed to tear and heal in violent cycles, each pulse sending devastating energy waves toward the inhabited planets. Dimensional cascade began 4 hours ago, Chen reported with clinical precision. At current decay rates, the barriers will collapse completely in 18 hours. Proxima Prime has a population of 43 million. The command deck fell silent except for the steady hum of their miraculously stable gate. Elena watched the horror dawn on alien faces as they realized the implications. The hegemony had 17 more unstable gates scattered across their territory. Without intervention, each would follow Proxima's path to catastrophic failure. The cascade can be stopped, Elena said clearly. Captain Chen's modifications prevent the quantum resonance that causes barrier collapse. We can save Proxima. We can save them all. General Kithara stepped closer to the display, his forearms trembling slightly. The technical requirements are within human capability, Elena finished. Have been for 3 years. We've been trying to offer assistance since the first dimensional disturbances began. Your species lacks the authority to watch 43 million beings die while we argue about jurisdiction. Elena's voice remained calm, but something in her tone made every alien on the deck take an involuntary step backward. Captain Chen, how long to reach Proxima through the modified gate? 14 minutes. Elena nodded and activated her personal communicator. All human vessels, prepare for immediate dimensional translation. Emergency protocols are now in effect. She turned to the general with ice in her green eyes. You have 30 seconds to decide, General. Do we save Proxima together, or do I explain to history why the hegemony chose pride over 43 million lives? Cathara's mandibles worked silently, his scaled face cycling through expressions of fury, confusion, and something that might have been desperate hope. Around him, his officers stared at displays showing 17 different gates in various stages of failure. The modifications to our existing gates can be completed within 6 hours each. Chen interrupted. Assuming your technicians follow human instructions precisely. The general's translator fell silent for long moments. When it finally spoke, the mechanical voice carried an unusual tremor. What assurances do we have that human modifications won't compromise gate security? Elena stepped forward until she stood directly in front of the towering alien commander. General, in approximately 17 hours and 16 minutes, you won't have any gates left to secure. Security becomes irrelevant when your infrastructure collapses. The brutal logic hung in the air like a physical weight. Elena watched understanding dawn across alien faces as mathematics overcame politics. The hegemony faced a choice between accepting human help or watching their civilization fragment across the galaxy. Ma'am, Chen called softly. Proxima Cascade acceleration detected. 13 hours until barrier collapse. Elena held the general's gaze. 13 hours, General. 43 million lives. Your decision? Cathara's forearms slowly uncrossed. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute defeat and desperate hope in equal measure. Human Queen, he said formally, the hegemony requests your assistance. Elena nodded once. Captain Chen, take us through. The modified gate sang as their ship passed through dimensions faster than light itself, racing toward a dying system and the chance to prove that human innovation could save more than just human lives. Behind them, General Cathara stared at the impossible reconstruction and wondered how badly his species had underestimated the strange, stubborn beings who refused to accept that some problems had no solutions. The Proxima system burned. Elena watched through the bridge viewport as their ship emerged from the dimensional gate into chaos. The dying portal hung like a broken mirror against the stars, its fragments spinning lazily while reality tore itself apart in the spaces between. Each pulse of dimensional energy sent visible distortions racing toward the populated planets. Jesus, muttered Lieutenant Rodriguez at the sensor station. Ma'am, the readings are off the charts. How is anything still alive down there? Hegemony emergency shields, Chen replied, his hands already working at the engineering console. They're buying time, nothing more. Maybe 3 hours before complete failure. Elena studied the tactical display with grim focus. Proxima Prime showed as a sickly yellow dot, its population centers protected by energy barriers that flickered with each dimensional pulse. 2 other inhabited worlds hung further out, their shields already showing red warning indicators. General Cathara to Human Queen. The communication system crackled. Our advanced ships report that local conditions exceed all safety parameters. Perhaps evacuation would be more practical than... Negative. Elena cut him off. Captain Chen, assessment. Chen's weathered face remained impassive as he studied the sensor readings. It's bad, but not impossible. The cascade is following standard patterns. If I can stabilize the primary resonance points before they synchronize, how long? 4 hours. Maybe 5. You have 3. Elena turned to her communications officer. Contact the Hegemony evacuation fleet. I want every available ship positioned to assist with population transfer if we fail. Ma'am, Rodriguez called urgently. Something's happening to the gate fragments. The main screen shifted to show the destroyed portal in high definition. Elena watched in fascination as the spinning fragments began to slow their rotation, their chaotic movement gradually organizing into recognizable patterns. Lines of force connected broken pieces, creating a temporary framework that pulsed with unstable energy. "Chen," she said quietly. Already on it, his hands moved across controls that materialized in the air around him, holographic interfaces responding to thoughts as much as touch. The fragments are trying to reconstruct themselves. Natural quantum tendency towards stability. If I can guide the process. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support and the distant rumble of dimensional distortions. Elena watched her chief engineer work with the focused intensity that had made him legendary among both human and alien technical specialists. Around them, the fabric of space-time groaned under stresses that should have been impossible. "Ma'am," called Navigation Officer Kim, "the Hegemony Task Force is requesting permission to begin evacuation procedures." "Denied," Elena replied, without taking her eyes off Chen's work. "We're not giving up on 43 million people." Through the viewports, she could see the Hegemony ships maintaining careful distance from the dimensional distortions. Their sleek hulls gleamed against the star field, but none moved closer to the dying gate. Only the human vessels pressed forward, their reinforced shields sparking as reality twisted around them. "Energy cascade reaching critical synchronization," Chen announced. His voice remained calm, but Elena noticed sweat beading on his forehead despite the bridge's cool temperature. If the resonance frequencies align, the dimensional barriers fail completely. We'll have a permanent tear in space-time. Consequences? Best case scenario? This entire system becomes uninhabitable. Worst case, the tear spreads to adjacent systems. Elena absorbed this information with the practiced calm of a leader who'd faced impossible situations before. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, their training taking over where conscious thought might falter. "General Kithara is requesting direct communication," Rodriguez reported. On screen, the alien commander appeared on the main display, his four arms gesturing frantically behind him. Emergency lights bathed his scaled features in red while damage reports scrolled across multiple screens. "Your Majesty, our scientists have run additional calculations. The dimensional stresses are beyond anything in our historical records. Evacuation must begin immediately." Elena leaned forward in her command chair. "General, how many ships do you have in this system?" 47 vessels with population transport capability. "Total evacuation capacity?" Kithara's mandibles clicked uncertainly. "Perhaps 12 million beings, assuming maximum efficiency. Leaving 31 million to die when the barriers collapse." The general's expression shifted to one of desperate frustration. "Your Majesty, we cannot save everyone. Sometimes commanders must make impossible choices." Elena stood slowly, her green eyes reflecting the red emergency lighting. "General, in my experience, impossible is simply another word for something no one has figured out yet." She turned to Chen. "Captain status report. Resonance alignment at 67%. I've managed to slow the cascade, but I need direct access to the gate fragments to complete reconstruction. Define direct access." Chen's hands paused over his controls. "Someone has to manually guide the quantum matrices during reassembly. Physical contact with the fragments while they're rebuilding themselves." Rodriguez spun in his chair. "Sir, that's suicide. The dimensional energies would tear apart anything within 50 kilometers. Not necessarily," Chen replied quietly. "Human neural patterns interface differently with quantum systems. Remember what happened with the gate reconstruction? We have an intuitive understanding of dimensional mechanics that other species lack." Elena felt the weight of 43 million lives pressing against her consciousness. Through the viewports, she could see Proxima Prime's emergency shields flickering more rapidly, their generators straining against forces that grew stronger with each passing moment. "Do it, ma'am," Rodriguez began. "Captain Chen, prepare for dimensional interface. All other personnel, implement emergency protocols." Elena's voice carried absolute authority that cut through every objection. "We're going to save this system." The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as her crew prepared for something that had never been attempted in the history of space exploration. Elena watched the dying gate pulse against the stars and wondered if human stubbornness would prove stronger than the fundamental forces of the universe. Outside, reality continued to tear itself apart, counting down toward catastrophe in pulses of twisted light. Chen's hands trembled as he sealed his environmental suit, the reinforced material designed to withstand dimensional stresses that would instantly kill an unprotected human. Elena watched him run through his final equipment checks with the methodical precision of someone who understood exactly how impossible his task should be. "Neural interface is calibrated," reported Dr. Sarah Martinez from the medical station. "But Marcus, the quantum fluctuations could scramble your brain patterns permanently. We have no idea what direct contact with rebuilding dimensional matrices will do to human consciousness." Chen looked up from his preparations, his weathered face calm behind the suit's transparent visor. "Sarah, in about 2 hours, 43 million people are going to die if somebody doesn't try something impossible. I've built my entire career on making the impossible routine." Elena stepped forward, her command presence filling the small preparation chamber. "Captain, you understand this is a volunteer mission. No one will question your decision if, ma'am, with respect, you're not giving me orders. You're giving me the chance to do what I've trained my whole life to do." Chen's hands moved over the suit's control interfaces with practiced efficiency. "Besides, someone needs to prove to General Cathara that humans don't just maintain existing systems, we make them better." Through the chamber's viewport, Elena could see the destroyed gate fragments continuing their slow dance toward catastrophic alignment. Each fragment glowed with increasing intensity as dimensional barriers weakened throughout the system. "Marcus," Dr. Martinez called urgently, "I'm reading unprecedented quantum signatures from the gate debris. The fragments are resonating with something. It's like they're trying to communicate." Chen paused in his preparations. "Communicate with what?" "With each other. And," Martinez's voice trailed off as she studied her readings, "with you. The quantum signatures spiked the moment you put on the neural interface." Elena felt ice form in her stomach. "Explanation?" "The gate fragments recognize human neural patterns. They're responding to Marcus's presence even from this distance." Martinez looked up from her displays with something approaching wonder. "The hegemony was wrong about human neural capacity. We're not too primitive to understand their technology. We're too advanced. Our brains process quantum information in ways that make their gates want to work better." The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. If human neural patterns naturally interfaced with hegemony gate technology, then her species wasn't just capable of maintaining the ancient systems, they were the key to unlocking their full potential. "General Cathara to Human Queen," the communications system announced. "Your Majesty, our sensors detect massive quantum fluctuations from your vessel." "What are your people attempting?" Elena activated her personal communicator. "General, we're going to save your system. I suggest you position your ships to assist with the aftermath." "Aftermath of what?" "The impossible." Elena cut the transmission and turned to Chen. Through his visor, she could see the determination that had made him the most respected engineer in human space. Around them, alarms began sounding as dimensional stresses increased throughout the Proxima system. "Ma'am," Chen said quietly, "if this works, it changes everything. Not just for this system, but for the entire relationship between humans and the hegemony. And if it doesn't work, then 43 million people die, and I get to be remembered as the human who thought he was smarter than the laws of physics." Helena placed her hand on Chen's armored shoulder. "Marcus, you've never been wrong about engineering. Don't start now." Chen nodded and moved toward the airlock. Elena watched him disappear into the launching bay, where a small shuttlecraft waited to carry him into the heart of dimensional chaos. Through the ship's speakers, she could hear his breathing over the comm system, steady and controlled despite the magnitude of what he was about to attempt. "Launch in 30 seconds, came the pilot's voice. Elena moved to the bridge, where her crew monitored dozens of displays showing the dying system's vital signs. Proxima Prime's shields flickered more rapidly now, their generators straining against dimensional pulses that grew stronger with each passing moment. "Dr. Martinez, continuous monitoring of Captain Chen's vital signs," Elena ordered. "If his neural patterns show any sign of dangerous fluctuation, I'll pull him out immediately," Martinez confirmed. "Ma'am," Rodriguez called from his station. "The hegemony fleet is repositioning. Looks like they're preparing for evacuation after all." Elena studied the tactical display, watching alien ships move into formation around the populated worlds. Their positioning suggested they expected catastrophic failure within minutes, not hours. "They don't believe we can do this," she murmured. "Neither do I," admitted Lieutenant Kim from navigation. "Ma'am, no offense, but what we're attempting violates about 6 different laws of physics." Elena smiled grimly. "Lieutenant, humans have been violating the laws of physics since we learned to fly. We just call it engineering." The shuttle launched with Chen aboard, its reinforced hull disappearing into the swirling chaos around the gate fragments. Elena watched the small craft navigate between dimensional distortions that would have torn apart most vessels instantly. "Chen to bridge!" His voice crackled over the comm. "I'm approaching the primary fragment array. The quantum signatures are incredible. It's like the gate pieces want to rebuild themselves but don't remember how. Can you guide the process? About to find out." Beginning neural interface contact in 3, 2, 1. The communication channel exploded with static as Chen made physical contact with the gate fragments. Every display on the bridge flickered as quantum energy surged throughout the system. Elena gripped her command chair as reality itself seemed to pause, waiting to see whether human intuition could accomplish what hegemony science had declared impossible. Through the static, she heard Chen's voice, strangely calm despite the dimensional storm raging around him. "Ma'am, you're not going to believe this, but I think the gates have been waiting for us." Light exploded across the Proxima system as the gate fragments began to sing. Elena shielded her eyes against the brilliant flare that erupted from the reconstruction zone, her bridge crew crying out in alarm as their displays went white with overloaded sensors. Through the chaos, Chen's voice remained steady on the communication channel, his words barely audible above the dimensional storm. "Neural connection established," he reported with clinical calm. "The fragments aren't random debris. They're components of a master gate system, designed to rebuild themselves when properly guided." "Chen, your vital signs are spiking," Dr. Martinez called urgently. "Neural activity is off the charts. Whatever you're interfacing with, it's rewriting your brain patterns in real time." Elena watched the tactical display struggle to process what the sensors were detecting. The gate fragments had stopped their chaotic spinning and now moved with precise coordination, each piece finding its exact position in a structure that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human sight could perceive. "Ma'am," Rodriguez whispered, "the energy readings? This isn't reconstruction. This is construction of something completely new." Through the bridge viewport, Elena could see the impossible taking shape. The gate wasn't returning to its original configuration. It was becoming something better, its crystalline matrices forming patterns that pulsed with mathematical perfection. Lines of force connected not just the fragments, but the very fabric of space-time itself. "General Kithara to Human Queen," the communication system crackled with static. "Your engineer appears to be building something that doesn't match any known gate design. Our scientists are requesting immediate—" "Stand by, General," Elena cut him off. "Chen, status report. The fragments are teaching me." Chen's voice carried wonder and terror in equal measure. "Their quantum matrices contain construction algorithms that interface directly with human neural patterns. We're not just compatible with gate technology. We're the species it was designed for." Elena felt the implications crash over her like a physical wave. If the ancient gates were designed for human operation, then everything the hegemony believed about their own technological superiority was fundamentally wrong. "Ma'am," Dr. Martinez called urgently, "Marcus's neural patterns are synchronizing with the gate's quantum frequency. His consciousness is literally expanding into the dimensional matrix." "Deep! Is he still human?" I don't know. His brain is processing information at levels that shouldn't be possible for any organic intelligence." Elena watched the reconstruction accelerate, the gate fragments now moving in harmonious patterns that created geometric forms of breathtaking beauty. Each completed section glowed with the same white light she'd seen during Chen's earlier work, but magnified beyond anything they'd witnessed before. "Chen, can you still hear me?" "Yes, ma'am." His voice sounded strange, carrying harmonics that resonated through dimensional space. but I can also hear 43 million voices from the planets below, and 17 billion more throughout hegemony space. The gates were never just transportation systems. They're consciousness amplifiers, designed to connect minds across interstellar distances. Elena's blood ran cold. What are you saying? The original builders didn't just create dimensional portals. They created a network for linking intelligent species across the galaxy. The hegemony has been using the gates for millennia without understanding their true purpose. The reconstruction reached its climax as the final fragments locked into position. The completed gate hung in space like a jewel carved from crystallized starlight, its surface reflecting images from thousands of different worlds simultaneously. Through its transparent depths, Elena could see not just the familiar star systems, but glimpses of civilizations she'd never imagined. Dimensional barriers stabilized throughout the system, reported Lieutenant Kim with amazement. Energy cascade has completely stopped. All 3 planets show stable protective fields. Elena allowed herself one moment of relief before the next crisis hit. General Cathara is requesting immediate conference, Rodriguez announced. He sounds distressed. The main screen activated to show the alien commander surrounded by frantically working technicians. His 4 arms gestured at displays showing data that seemed to dance and shift even as Elena watched. Your Majesty, Cathara's voice carried unfamiliar uncertainty. The reconstruction has activated gate networks throughout our territory. Ancient systems that have been dormant for thousands of years are coming online. Our scientists cannot explain. The network was waiting for human activation, Elena interrupted. Your people have been maintaining the gates, but they were designed for a species that thinks differently about quantum mechanics. Cathara's mandibles clicked in what Elena had learned to recognize as confusion. You suggest that an unknown species built technology specifically for humans? That is impossible. Your species achieved spaceflight barely 2 centuries ago. Elena looked at the magnificent gate spinning slowly against the stars, its surface alive with images of countless worlds. General, I don't think we're an unknown species to whoever built these gates. I think we're exactly who they were waiting for. Ma'am? Chen's voice called over the comm. The network is trying to establish contact with something. The quantum signatures suggest communication attempts across vast distances, not just space, but time. Elena felt destiny settling around her like a physical weight. The simple rescue mission had become something far more significant the moment when humanity discovered its true purpose among the stars. Chen, can you safely disconnect from the neural interface? I can try, but ma'am, the network wants to show us something. Something about why the gates were built, and why they've been waiting so long for human minds to fully activate them. Elena looked at the tactical display showing 17 billion lives now protected by stabilized dimensional barriers. Then at the mysterious gate that had somehow known exactly how to rebuild itself when a human mind provided guidance.
Show us, she said quietly.
The gate's surface flared with brilliant light as it began to transmit information that had been waiting eons for species capable of understanding its true meaning. The vision hit Elena's consciousness like a tsunami of light and knowledge. Through Chen Neuralink, she experienced memories that stretched across millions of years, witnessing the rise and fall of civilizations whose names had been forgotten before Earth's sun ignited. She saw them, the architects, as they called themselves, beings of impossible beauty, whose forms shifted between matter and energy at will. They built the gate network not as conquerors, but as gardeners, seeding the galaxy with dimensional portals that would activate when the right species evolved. They weren't building transportation systems, Elena whispered as the visions flowed through her mind. They were building a test. Around her, the bridge crew stared in fascination as holographic displays materialized from nowhere, showing star maps that spanned the entire galaxy. Thousands of gate icons pulsed with newly activated energy, connecting worlds that had been isolated for millennia. A test for what? Dr. B.I.M. Martinez asked breathlessly. Elena saw the answer in fragments of memory that Chen's expanded consciousness pulled from the network's quantum substrate. The architects had faced a choice: transcend to pure energy and abandon the physical universe, or remain bound by matter and eventually die with their aging bodies. They chose a third option, They made themselves into the gates, Elena realized with growing wonder. Their consciousness became the network itself, waiting for a species that could properly interface with quantum systems. They've been alive inside the dimensional matrices all this time. Ma'am, Chen's voice resonated through multiple dimensions now. They're asking permission to make full contact. Not just with me, but with humanity as a whole. General Kithara's image flickered on the main screen, his mandibles working frantically. Your Majesty, our instruments detect massive consciousness signatures throughout the gate network. Whenever you've awakened, it spans the entire galaxy. Elena looked at the tactical display showing 17 stabilized gate systems, each one now pulsing with intelligence that had waited eons for this moment. The weight of species-level decisions pressed against her shoulders, but her voice remained steady. Chen, what exactly are they offering? Partnership. They've been alone for so long, maintaining the gates while waiting for minds that could truly understand quantum consciousness. They want to share their knowledge, their history, their understanding of the universe itself. Elena closed her eyes, feeling the enormity of the moment. Humanity stood at the threshold of transformation beyond anything their species had imagined. The architects offered not just advanced technology, but consensus, with beings whose wisdom spanned geological time. And in return, they want to live again through human consciousness, not possession or control, true partnership. Human creativity and innovation combined with their accumulated knowledge of cosmic forces. Elena opened her eyes to see her bridge crew watching her with expressions of awe and terror. The decision she made in the next few moments would determine humanity's path for millennia to come. General Kithara, she said clearly, the hegemony has maintained the gate network for thousands of years without understanding its true nature. You've been caretakers of sleeping gods. The alien commander's forearms spread in a gesture Elena had learned indicated absolute confusion. Your Majesty, what are you proposing? I'm proposing that the galaxy is about to change in ways none of us can imagine. Elena turned to Chen's communication channel. Captain, establish full contact with the architects. Humanity accepts their partnership. Light exploded through dimensions as consciousness older than stars touched human minds for the first time. Elena felt her awareness expand beyond individual thought into something vast and interconnected, while still remaining fundamentally herself. Around her, the bridge crew gasped as they experienced fragments of cosmic understanding bleeding through Chen's neuralink. Through the network, she could feel the architect's joy. Not the emotion of biological beings, but something deeper and more profound. For the first time in millions of years, they were no longer alone with their infinite knowledge. Ma'am, Chen's voice carried harmonics of ancient wisdom while remaining recognizably human. They want to show us the galaxy as it really is. Elena nodded, then addressed the crew and the listening hegemony fleet. All personnel, prepare for consciousness expansion. We're about to learn what humanity was truly meant to become. The gate network sang with the voices of awakened gods as the first human minds touched the infinite, beginning a partnership that would reshape the very foundations of galactic civilization. Elena felt her consciousness fragment and reassemble as knowledge flooded through her neural pathways, each piece of information carrying the weight of cosmic truth. Through the architect's perspective, she witnessed the galaxy's hidden history. Wars between species that predated the hegemony by millions of years, the rise and fall of civilizations that had achieved transcendence only to fade into quantum memory. My God. Martinez, as her scientific mind struggled to process concepts that redefined the fundamental nature of reality. The galactic core isn't just a black hole. It's a consciousness nexus, the original source of quantum awareness that spawned thinking beings throughout the galaxy. Elena watched holographic displays materialize around the bridge, showing the true structure of galactic civilization. What the hegemony considered the known universe comprised only a tiny fraction of inhabited space. Thousands of species existed beyond the current borders, their own gate networks dormant until human consciousness could awaken the connecting pathways. Chen, she called through the dimensional link, are you still with us? More than I've ever been, ma'am. His voice carried newfound depth while remaining fundamentally human. The architects didn't just build the gates, they built a framework for species evolution. Every civilization that achieves quantum consciousness becomes part of something larger. General Cathara's image flickered on the screen, his scaled features cycling through expressions of wonder and terror. Your Majesty, our deepest space sensors are detecting gate activations throughout uncharted regions. Civilizations we didn't know existed are coming online. Elena felt the network pulse with welcoming energy as dormant sections awakened across the galaxy. Through her expanded awareness, she experienced first contact with dozens of species simultaneously. Crystalline beings who lived in the hearts of stars. Gas giant dwellers whose thoughts moved at the speed of atmospheric currents. Machine intelligences that had forgotten their organic origins. This is what they've been waiting for, Elena realized with growing awe. Not just human consciousness, but human curiosity. The architects chose us because we're the species most likely to unite diverse civilizations instead of conquering them. Ma'am, Lieutenant Rodriguez called urgently, I'm detecting massive dimensional distortions at the outer edges of hegemony space. Something big is coming through the activated gates. Elena's enhanced awareness touched the approaching presence and found something that made her consciousness recoil in shock. Not malevolence, but scale beyond imagination. Intelligence so vast that individual thoughts spanned light years of space. The gardeners. Chen's voice carried recognition mixed with reverence. The architect's teachers, the beings who seeded consciousness throughout the galaxy in the first place. They're returning. Elena felt her human perspective stretch to accommodate knowledge that should have driven her insane. The gardeners existed on scales that made planetary consciousness seem small, beings who cultivated entire galactic clusters, guiding the evolution of intelligence across cosmic time. General Cathara, she said with forced calm, evacuate all non-essential personnel to secure dimensions. We're about to receive visitors who think in terms of geological epochs. The alien commander's mandibles clicked frantically. Your Majesty, our instruments cannot even classify the energy signatures approaching our space. What exactly should we prepare for? Elena looked at her bridge crew, their faces glowing with reflected light from displays that showed impossible geometries. Through the gate network, she could feel hundreds of civilizations watching, waiting to see how humanity would handle contact with beings whose consciousness predated the formation of most solar systems. We prepare to represent not just humanity, but every species in the galaxy, Elena replied. The gardeners are coming to evaluate whether galactic civilization has evolved enough for the next phase, which is... Elena touched the quantum network with her expanded consciousness and saw visions that took her breath away. Galaxies linked by consciousness bridges spanning intergalactic distances, species working together on projects that would take millions of years to complete. The slow cultivation of intelligence on scales that dwarfed individual star systems, universal consciousness, she whispered. They're preparing us to make contact with intelligences from other galaxies entirely. The first gardener ship materialized at the edge of the system, its form defying human perception as it existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions. Elena felt her consciousness touch something so vast and ancient that her individual humanity seemed like a single note in an infinite symphony, but she remained herself, her voice steady as she addressed both her crew and the listening galaxy. All stations, prepare for transdimensional contact. We're about to discover humanity's true purpose in the universe. The gardener ship approached with the patience of geological time, while Elena prepared to speak for every conscious being in the Milky Way galaxy. Through the gate network, trillions of minds waited to learn whether they were ready to join something unimaginably greater than themselves. The network sang with anticipation as reality prepared to expand beyond the boundaries of a single galaxy, with humanity serving as the bridge between the familiar and the infinite. As Chen finally disconnected from the neural interface, his eyes opened to reveal depths of knowledge that hadn't existed in human consciousness moments before. Elena knew that the universe would never be the same, and neither would they.